Hi, Jeff Lawton here. Everybody likes the idea of growing an organic garden, but they also want to know, how am I going to fertilize it? How am I going to keep it productive? Well, you can make your own fertilizer. Well, you can work with something that makes fertilizer, and that's compost worms. We all have some food scraps to deal with. Not everybody has a recycling system where they live set up by the local government, but you can recycle it yourself. You can set up a system that continuously creates fertilizer, both liquid and solid fertilizer, that will keep you eating from your own garden. This is closing the waste stream loop of your own food system. Now, the little guys that do the work are these. They're not earthworms, they're compost worms. There's quite a few different types: red wrigglers, brandlings, tiger worms, Indian night crawlers, African night crawlers, Indian blues. There's all sorts. This one's going up my arm a little bit here. They're pretty friendly, look. They eat their own weight every day. So the amount of worms you got, or the amount of worms you're going to end up with, is going to equal in weight the amount of food scraps you're going to dump in there. What you produce out of your kitchen. The only thing they don't like is citrus peel and onions. Any of the onion family. Citrus peel you can actually burn and make a good fertilizer from the ash if you want to. Now, the product. Every day you can get a few litres or half a bucket or so of good quality liquid fermented worm juice. This is coming through the worm farm. You don't have to water it down, but you can extend it 20 times with water, or you can use it neat. The other product, the other great product, is this one. It's a whole bucket, and it's heavy, right? This is worm castings. This is a solid material. This is better than compost in some ways. It's kind of sticky. It's gluggy. I can kind of make almost like a ball, like a clay ball out of this. This is high quality, solid fertilizer. There's a little worm still in there, right? This has humates and mucilates and sticky gels in it that all come through the gut of the worm. Earthworms eat the manure of compost worms. That's how rich it is in beneficial bacteria. Not so much beneficial fungi, a little bit of fungi, mostly beneficial bacteria. This is great fertilizer, solid fertilizer and liquid fertilizer. Every 3 months, you can empty this bath and get a bath full of this stuff out and reset your worm farm. And every day you get your liquid fertilizer coming out. You're in business, you can grow your own food in a very high nutritious, high quality, healthy way by recycling your own waste stream. Let me show you what you're going to need. You can use just an ordinary bath. You just get it set up at the right height so that it drains down to the normal drainage point of the bath. Then I just use a piece of old chicken wire and a scrap piece of shade cloth. And what I do is wrap it up. The wire just gives it a little bit of strength and integrity. I just want it to stay over the bath plug. So I'll just fold the wire in, bring the loose ends together, and that's our filter. You don't want this bath to get clogged up so that the water, any moisture in there can't drip through to the bucket, and the worms then get flooded up to the surface. It takes a while to drain it. So I just stick that over the drain hole of the bath, and all I use is a house brick. That's my filter. It's that simple. If we're going to use manure as their base food, that's one of the secrets of keeping it simple. Half fill your container with cow manure or horse manure. If you're going to use sheep or goat, you'd make sure it was quite old, especially if it was desert manure, which is very rich. If it was chicken manure, it would have to be very aged. Cow and horse manure are great because they're partly decomposed vegetation. So here are some of our worms. There they are. They can go straight onto that manure. They'll thrive on that manure there. They'll dive right in. And I've got a wheelbarrow here of the residual worms from the last worm farm. So there's hundreds of worms here, and there'll be hundreds of worm eggs as well. We don't want to mix the fresh scraps into the manure because it will go airless, and that means it will go anaerobic and it will give off methane, which won't be good for the worms. It could kill them. So we keep it in layers. So now we've got all our worms in and they'll all dive down. They've all gone for cover. We bring up our food scraps, and every day we just drop our food scraps onto the worm farm. We spread it out a bit. That's it. That'll build up, because every single day for 3 months you'll be adding a bucket, half a bucket of food scraps, whatever you've got, and your worms will come up and they'll convert that into fertilizer. Now I'm going to wash it all down, clean it up a bit, and we're going to spray all the farm down. We're going to water it down so it all goes wet and sloshy, because the worms like that. The liquid coming out is definitely more nutritious for plants because it's very high in bacteria. The gut of the compost worm has enormous diversity of beneficial bacteria that's really good for the soil. It's quite different to manure tea, which can be quite anaerobic and have anaerobic bacteria, which is not so good for the soil. And we don't know how old it is and how acid it is, but the worm castings and the juice that comes from the water filtering through this worm casting mix, this is neutral. It doesn't have an acid or an alkaline pH. It's very neutral, and it's very high in beneficial bacteria. So you're feeding the soil. There we go. We're gonna really get a good test on our drainage here as well. So there we go. We've got it really nice and wet, and as long as it's draining, we're right. We can keep topping this up for 3 months and get constant fertilizer every day. So here's our final move. I've got just a scrap piece of shade cloth. Keep them nice and shaded. They don't like the light. Don't move away from the light. I'm just going to keep it simple and just weigh it down with 4 house bricks. I'm just going to put an extra piece of weed mat here. This is even more shaded. Could be an old carpet, could be an old blanket, as long as it lets the rain through. I don't like the worm farms to be covered up from the rain. I like the rain to come through the worm farm. A little bit of extra juice, a little bit of diluted juice, that's fine with me. The more juice we get, the better. The more I can fertilize my garden. So there we go. A very simple way to make a worm farm, and it's guaranteed to work. Couldn't be easier than that.